By the time my mom's best friend looked me in the eyes through that swaying cable car and said, "I guess I owe you now, don't I?" my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the rope. But I should start before that. My name's Ryan. I am 25 and I live in a small apartment in Golden, Colorado, about 20 minutes from Denver. If you drive 10 minutes west from my place, the mountains rise up so fast it feels like the sky drops closer. I work part-time as a tech at an outdoor gear shop and part-time as a guide for a small adventure company. I help tourists rent bikes in the morning, then teach them how to clip into a harness in the afternoon. It is not a big life, but it is mine. A small kitchen, a mattress on the floor, and a wall covered in topo maps I keep meaning to frame. My mom thinks I could do more school, more money, more of that safe life she never got. She talks about it a lot over Sunday dinners. She does not talk as much about my dad who left when I was 10. The person she does talk about is Megan. Megan is my mom's best friend. She is 41, with sun lines around her eyes and the kind of calm that makes people quiet down when she walks in a room. She does marketing for a ski resort, which sounds fancy when my mom says it. To me, she is the woman who used to pick me up from school when mom got stuck at work. The one who brought me hot cocoa when I broke my arm snowboarding in high school. The one who stood in our kitchen once and told me to stop selling myself short when I said I was just a gear shop guy. She and my mom met at some local charity event. Mom says she knew they would be friends. The second Megan rolled her eyes at some guy in a suit and stole a brownie from the dessert table. They do book clubs and wine nights and talk on the phone like teens. I try to keep my feelings about Megan simple. Mom's friend. Older. Off limits. But when she shows up in a fleece jacket and worn hiking boots, hair in a loose bun, eyes bright like she has a plan, something in my chest wakes up. The day everything changed was a Saturday in late January. The sky was a hard blue, the kind you only get after a week of snow. My adventure company had a special group trip up to the new gondola line at Summit Crest, a ski resort Megan worked with all the time. It was a half-day thing. Ride the cable car up, do a short ridge walk, have lunch at the Summit Lodge, and ride back down. Mom was supposed to come, but she caught a bad cold the night before. She called me that morning, sniffling into the phone. "I am so mad I have to miss it," she said. "At least Megan is still going. Keep an eye on her for me, okay?" "I think she can keep an eye on herself," I said, but my chest felt warm when she laughed. There were about 15 people in our group, a mix of tourists and locals who wanted the quote-quote guided winter summit package. I was the junior guide, there to help with gear and make sure no one wandered off for selfies near a cliff. Megan got there right on time, in a green jacket and a knit hat that did not match but somehow looked perfect. She walked straight over to me at the base of the gondola station. "Hey, kid," she said, then caught herself. "Sorry, you are not a kid anymore." Quote. "Still feel like one when you say that," I said. Her smile hit me in the chest. She reached out and brushed a bit of frost from my sleeve. "How is your mom doing?" she asked. "Mad she is not here," I said. "She told me to keep you in one piece." "Good," Megan said. "I need all my pieces. Big project launch on Monday." Her eyes shifted to the big glass cable cars gliding in and out of the station. They were sleek, like little space pods, each one able to hold 8 people. "You have ridden these before, right?" I asked. "Once for work," she said. "The view is worth it, as long as I do not look straight down." "You get scared of heights?" I asked, surprised. She made a face. "Not scared," she said. "Just do not love hanging over a canyon in a glass box." I filed that away. Megan did not admit fear often. She liked to joke that she had used it all up in her 20s. We loaded up in groups. The head guide, Mark, sent the first car with some tourists who wanted to get a head start on photos. I was assigned to the second car. Megan ended up in the third. I tried not to be disappointed. The ride-up was smooth. The line rose over dark green pines and white snowfields. The mountains stood close, their ridges sharp against the sky. My group of 7 was chatty, asking about trails and avalanche beacons. I talked them through the plan, all the while thinking about Megan in the car behind us. Was she gripping the rail a little too tight? Does she have anyone to distract her? We reached the top in about 12 minutes. The doors slid open. I stepped onto the summit deck, the air thin and sharp in my lungs. Mark checked his watch and told us to gather near the railing. The other cars would be right behind us. Except they were not. The line made a grinding sound, low and wrong. The cable shuddered. The empty car behind ours jerked and stopped halfway between the base and the summit. The next car, the third one where Megan was, came to a hard halt a few seconds later, swinging once before going still. A murmur moved through the people on the deck. Mark walked fast toward the control booth. I followed, my stomach tight. Inside the booth, the operator, a guy in his 50s with a Summit Crest badge, was on the phone. His face was stiff. "What is going on?" Mark asked. "Power surge," the operator said. "Main line shorted. Backup did not kick in. We have to reset the system and check the clamps before we move anything, or we risk a snap." "How long?" I asked before I could stop myself. The operator gave me a look that did not help. "Could be an hour," he said. "Could be 3. They have to dig out the lower station. A drift came down last night. It is a mess down there." I walked back out onto the deck and grabbed the binoculars from the gear bench. The wind bit at my cheeks as I raised them. The third car was a small glass box far down the line, hanging over the slope. Through the zoom, I could see faces pressed to the windows. A woman with a red hat, a guy talking too fast. And there, near the back corner, Megan. She sat on the bench, hands clasped tight on her knees, eyes fixed on the peaks across the valley. Her jaw was set. She was not looking down. Not at all. I knew that look. It was the one she wore when she was holding herself together by sheer will. "She okay?" Mark asked beside me. "She does not like heights," I said, lowering the binoculars. "And she will not say it." Mark swore under his breath. "We have radio contact with the cars," he said. "We will talk them through it. They are safe as long as the cable holds." As long as the cable holds. The wind picked up, making the line hum. The car swayed just a little. My chest tightened. I could have left it at that. Trust the system. Trust the rescue crew. But all I could see was Megan, stuck in that glass box, pretending she was fine, while every second made her heart beat faster. Under my boots, the deck felt solid. Under hers, I knew it did not. I handed the binoculars back and looked at the emergency gear locker near the rail. Harnesses, ropes, a narrow catwalk under the main cable for maintenance. My palms started to sweat inside my gloves. If I stayed where I was, I knew I would hate myself. If I went out there, I might not make it. I heard my mom's voice in my head, telling me to be smart, to be safe. Then I heard Megan's from last fall, when she watched me on a small practice wall. "You are better than you think you are, Ryan," she had said. "Trust that." Somewhere between those two voices, I made my choice. I do not really remember walking to the emergency locker. 1 second, I was staring at that tiny glass box with Megan inside it. The next, I was yanking the metal door open and pulling out a harness with cold fingers. Mark caught up to me fast. "Ryan, what are you doing?" he asked, like he already knew the answer and hated it. "Going out," I said, checking the straps. "We trained on that maintenance line last fall, remember?" He frowned at the steel catwalk, bolted under the main cable. It was narrow, just wide enough for a technician with a tool bag to shuffle along. A safety cable ran above it for harness clips. "That was a drill, with good weather and no passengers," he said. "You slip out there and it is a long way down. Rescue team from base is coming. Let them handle it." "How long?" I asked. He did not answer. "Not right away." The wind answered for him, pushing against the gondola cars and making them sway again. "She told me once she gets lightheaded if she stays up high too long," I said. "She is not going to say anything on the radio. She is going to sit there and pretend she is fine until she is not." Mark swore under his breath and glanced back at the control booth where the operator was still on the phone. "They're digging out the base station," Mark said. "Last I heard, An hour before they even get tools on the line. Then I am going, I said. He stared at me, jaw tight. This because she is your mom's friend, he asked, or because it is her? I met his eyes. Both, I said. Something in his face shifted. Resignation, maybe. Or respect. He grabbed a harness for himself anyway, more out of habit. If you do this, he said quietly, you do it slow and clean. No dumb hero stuff. Clip every step. You fall and live. I am going to kill you myself. I huffed a shaky breath that might have been a laugh. Deal, I said. We moved to the edge of the deck where the catwalk started. It dipped down under the cable and then stretched out across the open air, a narrow line of steel and bolts. From up close, it looked smaller. I clipped my harness to the safety cable, double-checked the carabiner, then checked it again. My hands felt thick, even in my gloves. Radio on Channel 3, Mark said, pressing one into my hand. I will keep in your ear from here. Do not look down more than you have to. Tell my mom I listened for once, I said. He shook his head. Just come back, he said. Then there was nothing left to do but go. The first step onto the catwalk punched straight through my stomach, metal under my boots, air under the metal. The mountain dropped away so fast my knees locked for a second. Keep moving, Mark's voice crackled through the radio. You are clipped in. Trust the cable. I pulled in a breath, fixed my eyes on the line ahead, and made myself take another step, then another. Each one scraped a new sound out of the steel. The wind slid under my jacket and tried to lean me sideways. The safety cable above my head hummed. My gloved hands slid the tether along it, carabiner scraping, one small metal kiss at a time. I did not look down. I let the valley exist, in my peripheral vision as a blur of white and dark green. My world shrank to the next bolt, the next gap, the next breath. Halfway, Mark said after what felt like an hour, you are doing good. Tell my arms that, I muttered. Tell Megan, he said. We patched you into their car audio. The radio crackled. Then a different voice came through, thin but clear. The operator. Car 3, we have one of our guides coming out on the maintenance line, he said. Do not panic. The system is stable. He is just there to keep you company and assist if needed. Another voice spoke, a woman's, tight around the edges. Define stable, she said. Megan. My chest squeezed. I am almost there, I said into the radio, my voice rough. Megan, you hear me. There was a pause, then a softer answer. Yeah, she said. I hear you. You are okay, I said, taking another step. You are doing great. Just keep breathing slow. Quote, I am sitting in a glass box above a canyon, she said. Not my favorite Saturday. Her tone was dry, but I heard the strain under it. You were the one who signed up for the scenic ride, I said. I thought there would be hot chocolate involved, she said. Maybe a souvenir mug. Not this. Despite everything, I smiled. My shoulders loosened just a little. That is on Mark, I said. He cheaped out on the package. We went back and forth like that for a while. Little lines, dumb jokes, anything to keep her voice moving. Anything to keep her from going quiet. As I drew closer, the car grew from a shape to a thing. I could see the smudges on the glass, the faces inside, a couple in matching jackets, a kid hunched on the floor, a man gripping the rail so hard his fingers looked white. And Megan. She was pressed back in the corner, one hand latched onto the bench, the other braced against the window. When she turned her head and saw me, her eyes locked onto mine like a rope. Hi, she said. And it came out half laugh, half breath. Hi, I said. The end of the catwalk met the support bracket under the car. I stepped onto the wider platform there and clipped my tether into a new anchor point. The car was now at my chest level, the glass wall so close I could have leaned my forehead against it. I did not. I knocked gently instead. Megan shifted closer and placed her palm flat on the glass over mine. Only an inch of cold stood between skin. You are insane, she said. Yeah, I said, but I am your kind of insane. She swallowed, eyes shining a little. The operator patched me back into the car audio. Car 3, we need you all to stay seated. he said. "We are still working on a reset. Do not attempt to force the doors. The guide is secured on the maintenance line and will remain with you." I unhooked a smaller safety line and attached it to the emergency handle on the outside of the car door. It was locked from inside, but I could at least brace it. "Listen," I said to Megan, "the system might jerk when they power it back on. When that happens, this thing is going to swing hard. When it does, you look at me. Not at the floor, not at the trees, just me. Got it?" She nodded slowly, her hands still on the glass. "What if the power does not come back on?" she asked. "Then they will run the manual crank," I said. "Worst case, we sit here and complain about the cold until they haul us to the pylon." "We," she repeated softly. "I am not going anywhere," I said. The other passengers started asking questions then. How long? How safe? What if? I answered what I could. Kept my voice steady, even when the wind made the car sway again. Megan did not join in. She kept her eyes on me. Every time the cable hummed, her fingers spread a little wider on the glass, like she was making sure I was still there. Minutes stretched. My legs started to ache from bracing on the metal platform. Snowflakes drifted past in lazy spirals as another cloud rolled in. "Ryan," Mark said in my ear. "Update from base. They are trying a partial restart. Might get enough juice to pull the cars to the nearest tower. That is close to you. You will feel a jolt." "Copy," I said. I looked back at Megan. "Okay," I said. "Here it comes. You ready?" She huffed out a breath. "No," she said. "Do it anyway." I could not help but laugh once, short and sharp. "That is the Megan I know," I said. The line shuddered under my boots. The cable sang a low note that vibrated in my bones. The car dipped, then lurched forward, half a foot. A woman inside yelped. The kid grabbed the rail. The man swore. Megan's hand slapped harder against the glass. Her eyes went wide. For 1 second, I thought she might bolt to the other side of the car. "Hey," I said, loud enough that she could read my lips if the radio cut. "Right here." Eyes on me. She looked at me, just me. The world around us swung, the valley tilted, the car creaked, but her gaze did not move. The line groaned again, and then started to inch forward, dragging the car with it toward the nearest support tower, where a maintenance platform sat like a small, safe island in the middle of the span. We were moving, slow, unsteady, but moving. As the tower drew closer, Megan's shoulders finally dropped an inch. Her eyes were still locked on mine. Something in them had changed. It was still fear, still adrenaline, but there was something else layered in. Trust. Heavy and bright. In that moment, hanging between sky and snow, with my boots on cold metal and my fingers numb, I realized something. It was not just my job to get her out of this, it was personal. And there was no going back to pretending it was not. The tower loomed closer, a gray steel skeleton rising out of the white. The maintenance platform wrapped around it like a small balcony, just big enough for a couple of people to stand on. Compared to the swinging car and the empty air below, it looked like a full house and a locked door. The cable car lurched again and then inched along until it lined up with the platform. The movement stopped with a heavy clunk. We were parked a few feet away from the tower, the car hovering like a stubborn guest who would not quite step inside. "Ryan," Mark's voice came through the radio. "They got partial power, but that is all we are getting for now. You are closest. We can't run the system full line. We need to get those folks onto the tower and bring them down from there. Think you can manage a transfer?" "Yeah," I said, eyeing the gap between the car and the platform. "We can make a bridge." I unclipped my main tether long enough to drag a short ladder from its brackets on the tower. It was meant for maintenance crews, but it would do. I laid it across the space, its rubber feet braced on the car's threshold, and its top resting on the platform. Inside, the passengers watched me like I was about to pull a rabbit out of a hat, except no one was smiling. I banged on the glass again and raised my voice. "Okay," I said. "We are going to move you one at a time onto this platform. You are going to crawl low over the ladder, hands and knees. I will be right here. You will clip into my backup line before you move. You are not going to fall. Got it." The guy in the matching jacket went first, muttering prayers under his breath as I clipped a carabiner to his belt. He scrambled across the ladder too fast, making it bounce. My stomach jumped, but he made it. The kid went next, eyes squeezed shut, fingers white on the rungs. I talked him through each move. One hand, one knee. Good. Keep going. You're killing it. 2 more adults followed. Each one made the platform feel a little more crowded, but also more solid. Each time I sent someone across, I could feel the tension in the car drop 1 notch. Megan stayed back, letting everyone else go. That was her. Make sure everyone else was okay first, even when her own hands were trembling. "Your turn," I said finally, looking straight at her. "Thought I might just live here now," she said, the corner of her mouth twitching. "Rent is terrible," I said. "And the neighbors complain." Inside, the others shuffled away to give her space. The kid gave her a small, shaky thumbs up. Megan slid off the bench and stepped carefully to the door, one hand brushing the wall like she needed the touch. Up close, I could see how pale she was. A strand of hair stuck to her cheek where the sweat had cooled. Her eyes were clear, though, focused. I held out my hand. "Clip in," I said. She watched me secure the carabiner to the front loop of her jacket, my fingers brushing the zipper. The rope between us felt heavier with her on the end of it. "On your hands and knees," I said. 3 points of contact at all times. Eyes on the ladder or me, not the ground. You know the drill. "You are bossier up here than you are in the shop," she said, dropping to a crouch. "You listen better up here than you do in the shop," I said. She huffed out a breath that might have been a laugh, then eased onto the ladder. The car shifted with her weight. The ladder creaked. My hand tightened on the rope, the other gripping the rail. She moved slow, deliberate. 1 knee, then a hand, then the other knee. The wind tugged at her hat. The valley yawned below. "Doing great," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Halfway there." "Do not say halfway," she muttered. "Say almost." "Almost there," I corrected. She kept going. When her hand slipped a little, my heart shot into my throat. But the rope stayed taut, and she caught herself with a low curse. Finally, she reached the platform side. I grabbed her arm and guided her onto solid steel. Her boots hit it with a heavy clang. For a second, she just stood there, eyes closed, breathing hard. Then she looked up at me. "See?" I said. "Hot chocolate would have been too easy." She stared at me like she wanted to say 3 different things and did not know which one to pick. Instead, she just reached up and pressed her hand to my shoulder. "Thank you," she said quietly. That's not a big enough word, but it is all I have right now. Something hot and tight pressed under my ribs. "Any time," I said, "but next time, we are doing this on a training wall 6 feet off the ground." "No promises," she said. The rescue crew met us at the base of the tower with a portable hoist and harnesses. They took over, running lines, checking knots, sending the passengers down in pairs to a small snowfield and shuttling them to a warming hut. I went last. Everything hurt by then. My shoulders, my legs, even my jaw from clenching it. When my boots finally sank into the snow at the bottom, my body tried to sag all at once. Megan was waiting just past the rope line, a gray blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her cheeks were pink now from the heat of the hut. Someone had handed her a paper cup of coffee. She did not touch it. She watched me instead, like she had not looked away since they brought her down. As soon as the crew unhooked my harness, she stepped forward. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes running quickly over me. "Anything hurt?" "Just my pride," I said. "Apparently we are charging extra for mid-air rescue now, and I did not fill out the paperwork." She rolled her eyes, but it was soft. "Come here," she said. Before I could react, her arms were around me. She pulled me into a hug that was tighter than I expected. She smelled like cold air and hotel soap and something warmer underneath, something that made my head feel light. For a second, I did not know where to put my hands. Then they settled on her back, between her shoulder blades where the blanket bunched. She fit against me like she had always been meant to stand there. "Thought you were going to fall," she said into my shoulder. "Thought you were going to pass out," I said. "Guess we are both stubborn," she said. She pulled back a little, but not all the way. Her hands stayed on my arms, fingers curling lightly into my jacket. Her eyes were bright, a little watery at the edges. Up close, I could see the fine lines there from years of laughing in the sun. "You know my mother is going to freak out when she hears about this," I said. Her mouth curved into a half smile. "Your mom already texted me," she said. "News travels fast. I sent her the safe version." I smirked. "The safe version doesn't include me hanging off a catwalk, does it?" "No," she said, "but mine does." Her fingers tightened for a second, like she was replaying it. Me outside the glass, her inside, the space between. We walked back toward the hut together. The others were wrapped in blankets, sipping cocoa now. Some of them looked at me like I had done something heroic. I did not feel like a hero. I felt like a guy who had been scared out of his mind and done it anyway. Megan stuck close, her shoulder brushing mine every few steps. The warmth of her near me cut through the leftover chill. Inside the hut, Mark clapped me on the back hard enough to make me grunt. "Nice work, man," he said. "You kept your head. I'll write you up for a bonus if the bosses don't chew us out first." "Just leave out the part where I ignored you," I said. He laughed. "No promises," he said. They took statements. The resort manager came in, smelled like expensive cologne and worry. He kept saying liability and protocol. I answered his questions, but my attention drifted back to Megan every time she shifted in my peripheral vision. When it was finally done, the operator told us the gondola would be shut down for the rest of the day. We would head down in snowcats. The crisis was over. People were already turning it into a story to tell later. Megan and I stepped outside again while we waited for the transport. The sky had gone softer, clouds spreading a thin layer over the blue. The bite of the wind had eased, but I still shoved my hands in my pockets. She stood beside me by the railing, looking out over the valley. The same view she had been forced to stare at from that glass box, but from here, it felt different. Safer, solid, underfoot. "I keep thinking about it," she said quietly. The sound the cable made when it stopped. The way the car moved when they tried to restart it. I thought I had it handled, and then I did not. "You did better than half the people in there," I said. "You held it together." She tilted her head, watching me instead of the view now. "I held it together because you were there," she said. "Because you kept talking. Because I could look at you and nod at the drop." My face went hot in the cold air. "Anyone could have done that," I said. She shook her head once. "Plenty of people could have," she said. "Most wouldn't have. You did." She was quiet for a moment. Then she turned more fully toward me. "I guess I owe you now, don't I?" she said, her voice low but sure. The words hit me harder than the wind. I started to make a joke, to deflect. Something about a free pair of boots from the resort shop, or her buying the next round of coffee. But the way she was looking at me made the joke die in my throat. There was something else in her eyes now, something that had not been there before today, something that made my pulse jump. "What if you don't?" I said, my voice quieter than I meant. "What if we just call it even?" She studied me for a long second, like she was weighing two different versions of what came next. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe I still want to owe you." The Snowcat's engine rumbled to life in the distance, breaking the moment. People started lining up, pulling their blankets tighter, shifting their weight like they were ready to put this all behind them. I was not sure I was. As we walked toward the transport, our shoulders brushed again. This time, I did not move away. Neither did she. Whatever had shifted out there on the line had not swung back, and I had no idea what that meant yet, only that it was real. The Snowcat ride down the mountain felt like a dream I was watching from outside my own body. The engine growled. The treads clanked over ice. People talked in low, shaky voices about how crazy it all was and how they were never getting on a cable car again. I sat near the back, my shoulders brushing Megan's. She had her blanket pulled tighter around her, but every bump in the road made her lean a little closer, like contact kept her steady. "You doing okay?" I asked quietly. She gave a small nod. Ask me again after a hot shower and something that isn't rescue station coffee, she said. You were solid up there, I said. Just so you know. She looked at me like she wanted to argue, then shook her head. I was one bad thought away from losing it, she said. You kept that thought from landing. I did not know what to do with that, so I just nodded and looked out the window at the trees sliding past. By the time I got home that night, the sky over Golden was dark and clear. My apartment felt smaller than usual, quiet in a way that rang in my ears. My phone buzzed as I was taking off my boots. A text from Mom. Heard about the gondola from Megan. Call me! I sighed and hit dial. She picked up on the first ring. Are you okay? She asked. No, hello, just straight panic. I'm fine, I said, dropping onto the couch. Everyone's fine. They shut the line down and ran us down in a snowcat. It wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad, she repeated. Megan told me you walked out on some tiny metal thing over a drop, Ryan. She's underselling it, I said. There was also a ladder involved. She was quiet for a second. This is not funny, she said, but I could hear the edge in her voice soften. You scared me. I know, I said. I'm sorry. Another pause. She also told me you were the reason she didn't pass out up there. Mom said. She couldn't stop talking about how you kept her grounded. Something in my chest shifted. She okay? I asked. Bruised ego mostly, Mom said. She is still a little shaky, but she's home. She said she'd text you later. My heart kicked at that. Okay, I said. Good. Mom sighed on the other end. I'm proud of you, you know, she said. I'm mad you scared me, but I'm proud. I stared at the map on my wall, the one with all the trails marked in red. Thanks, I said. We hung up. I sat there in the half-dark, the glow of the streetlight spilling across the floor, and tried to figure out why my hands were still shaking. It was late when Megan's text came. You home? Yeah. You. She replied fast. Yeah. Can't sleep. Keep seeing that glass. You busy tomorrow? No. I wrote back. What's up? Coffee. Somewhere that doesn't move. My treat. I guess I owe you now, don't I? There it was again. The line she had said on the mountain. Seeing it written made my chest go tight. You don't owe me, I typed. But I'll take the coffee. She sent an address. A small cafe downtown. Late morning. Sleep took a while that night. The next day was bright and cold. I walked to the cafe with my hands shoved in my jacket pockets. Breath fogging in front of me. My stomach felt like it did before a hard climb. Megan was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table by the window. No jacket this time. Just a soft gray sweater and jeans. Her hair was down, resting on her shoulders. She looked more relaxed than she had on the mountain, but there was still a shadow in her eyes. She smiled when she saw me. It was small, but real. Hey, she said as I slid into the chair across from her. You look human. That's a good sign. I shaved, I said. Tried to look less like someone you'd see in a rescue photo. She laughed quietly. I ordered for you, she said, nodding at the mug waiting in front of me. Black coffee with too much caffeine. That's still your thing, right? Yeah, I said. Guess you do know me. We sat in silence for a minute, both of us wrapping our hands around our cups, letting the warmth sink into our fingers. How are you really? I asked. She looked out the window, then back at me. I've been worse, she said, but I keep waking up in the middle of the night thinking I'm still in that car. I nodded. That'll fade, I said. The brain likes to rerun bad movies for a while. You, she asked. You seemed fine yesterday, calm. I was not fine, I said. I just did not have room to fall apart. You had that covered. Her lips curved. I held my own, she said, with an excellent view, apparently. She held my gaze when she said it, and that look was back, the one from the tower. The one that made it hard to remember basic things like how to swallow. You saved me, she said, dropping the teasing tone. Not just with the climb. You made me feel like I wasn't alone in it. I don't think I can explain how big that is for me. You'd have done the same for me, I said. I don't know, she said. I like you too much to watch you walk out on a cable like that. My heart picked up on that line. I tried to keep my voice even. You like me, I said, forcing an easy tone. Wow, big day. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. You know what I mean, she said. Then she went quiet for a moment, turning the cup between her hands. When you were outside that car, she said softly, it hit me how young you are, and how not young I am, and how wrong it should feel that the person I wanted to keep looking at was you. The words landed between us like a dropped rope. I stared at her. It doesn't feel wrong to me, I said, before I could talk myself out of it. She laughed once, a tired sound. You're 25, Ryan, she said. I'm 41. I'm your mom's best friend. You're supposed to roll your eyes when I talk about my back hurting, not climb out on a cable to save me. I don't climb for people I don't care about, I said. Not like that. Not at that risk. You know that. Her face softened. There was something like fear there, but something else too. Hope, maybe. I keep telling myself it's just adrenaline, she said. That when the dust settles, this will fade, and we'll laugh about it at book club like it was nothing. Is that what you want? I asked. She looked right at me then, no dodging. I don't know, she said. I know it's complicated. I know your mom would have feelings. I know people talk. But when I picture that car swinging and you not being there outside the glass, it hurts in a way I can't brush off. And when I picture you walking away from this and just being my friend's kid, again, that hurts too. Quote, my chest felt too tight for my ribs. I don't think I can go back to that, I said, to pretending you're just mom's friend who likes hiking. Not after this. She took a long breath and let it out slowly. So what do we do? She asked. We don't rush, I said, echoing my own thoughts from the night before. We don't hide in some sneaky way. We don't blow up my mom's world with no plan. But we also don't lie to ourselves. A small smile tugged at her mouth. When did you get so grown up? She asked. About halfway out on that catwalk, I think, I said. She laughed, and this time it was warm. We start small, I said. We get coffee. We go on hikes that stay on the ground. We see what this feels like when there's no cable and no panic. If it still feels like something, then we figure out how to tell my mom. Together. If it doesn't, then we had a weird, intense story, and we go back to you stealing her wine on book club nights. You're suggesting a test drive, she said, eyebrow lifting. I'm suggesting we stop pretending there isn't something here and also don't blow it up on day one, I said. She was quiet for a long beat. Then she reached across the table and turned her hand palm up, leaving it there between us. It was a small motion, but my heart jumped like I was back on the line. I placed my hand in hers, her fingers curled around mine, warm, firm, familiar in a way that surprised me. I can live with that, she said, one step at a time. She squeezed once, then smiled. And for the record, she added, I still think I owe you. You really don't, I said. Good, she said, her eyes holding mine, because I plan on paying you back anyway. Outside the window, the mountains sat steady on the horizon. The same as they had been yesterday. The same as they would be years from now. Inside the cafe, our hands stayed linked on the table between coffee cups in a quiet that felt full instead of empty. I did not know exactly where this was going. I did not know how my mom would react when the time came, or how much work it would take to make this real in the open. But I knew this much. On a cold day, in a glass car hanging over a canyon, something had shifted between me and Megan. It did not snap back into place when the cables started moving again. And sitting there with her thumb brushing the back of my hand, I knew I did not want it to.